Hi, this is Long Vo, and today I am going to analyze one of my most devastating losses. And I think there's the biggest lesson that I learned from this match is to have more confidence and not to panic and to overthink, and sometimes just to play the most obvious simple move and stick to it. So my opponent, right now I'm rated 1354, and it's May the 12th in 2012. My opponent is, I'm playing black. My opponent is Ron Pushke, playing white, and he's rated 1564. So let's begin. Now he plays d4, and I play f6. Then he plays c4. Then right away I challenge his d-pawn by going c5. And I'm not really familiar with this type of opening at this point, so I'm just playing by ear and just the way I feel would make sense, because if he takes, then I figured I would take control of the center, opening the file for the bishop and attacking his pawn. So I wasn't worried for him taking it. So instead he plays e3, defending the d-pawn, and I developed the knight, playing c6, exerting more pressure on the d-pawn. Now he develops his other knight to c3, and I open my bishop file, playing e6. Now at this point my light square bishop is pretty much stuck here for now, and he develops his knight to f3. So I decide to take his pawn. C takes d, now e takes d, and I'm not really sure why I did that, or the logic behind it. I guess I wasn't really sure what to do, and I just wanted to make some exchanges and perhaps open the file here so I could do something with my bishop. And so bishop goes to e7, just to get ready to castle. So he goes his bishop d3. Now when I see something like that, I guess I do like to attack this pawn so that he would have to recapture and perhaps use a temple. So it's something that's on my mind. And what he just did also was disconnect his queen from the d4 pawn. So now I'm going to attack that c pawn by going d5, and the idea is really to capture, and then he would lose a temple recapturing. So he castles, and now I capture. D takes c, and then he recaptures with the bishop, takes c4. So now, as you can see, he already moved his bishop, and then he moved it again, so I was happy about that. So now I castle, because that was my initial plan. He goes a3, so I'm not sure why, and I didn't really have the intention of moving the bishop there anymore, because there's nothing to pin, or even if I move my knight there, I'm not sure what the knight can do in that position. So I thought it was kind of a waste of a move. So I go a6. So my idea here is to kick the bishop around and make him lose more tempo and gaining some space on the queen side. So he goes h3. So same thing. I'm not sure why, and obviously there's a purpose so that his king can have a way out and not be checked by the back rank checkmate. So I do understand that, and perhaps he's trying to prevent my knight. But I didn't really have the intention of going there for now, because I'm focusing on the queen side. So I do go b5 to push his bishop away. So he retreats to a2, where it's pretty much safe. I guess the other move before that was prophylactic for that, to have a little defensive outpost for his bishop. So I guess now I do understand why he played that. So now I freed up my bishop to b7. So knowing that his king is on the king side, castled on the king side, so now I know that this bishop here has a long diagonal, which is pretty much mine for now. And so I'm happy about that. I was able to develop my light square bishop. So he plays bishop to e3. I guess yeah. So that's a simple development move, and yes, I'm not sure if that's. I guess he thought that was the best move, the best position for that bishop, and also supporting the d pawn. And at this point, there is an isolated pawn here that I do have my eye on, and later on you'll see how I attack it. Now the question becomes, can he put enough defenders on that pawn versus the number of attackers that I have? So right now he has 3 defenders, and I have 2 attackers. So now I move my bishop to d6 with the idea of moving the knight here and gaining this, blockading this pawn, and also there's a small outpost there. So that's my idea right there. So I guess it's kind of a strange move, but that's what it's for. So he goes rook c1. That's an open file, so that made perfect sense. Same thing, so I counter with rook c8, and he goes rook e1. So semi-open file, which made a lot of sense. And now I go knight to e7, which is my initial plan to blockade the isolated pawn here, and then look for ways to attack it. So right here I also have the idea of bringing the queen here eventually, and putting lots of pressure on that pawn. So he goes b4, and I guess just gaining some space on the queen side and preventing my pawns from pushing. At this point, these 2 pawns here, I don't really have the intention of moving them further down at this point, so that move didn't really bother me. But it does restrict my bishop, so it doesn't give my bishop a chance to go here. It's just one less square for me. But so what I do is I go knight to d5, trying to attack his bishop, and at this point I didn't mind if he exchanged knights, because then my other knight would go there, and it has an outpost, and it's also supported by the light square bishop versus his light square bishop. So knight takes d5, knight takes d5, just like I expected, and now I achieved the blockade. So queen goes to d3, connecting his rook and completing his development. So here, knight goes to f4. So the idea of blockading the pawn changed a little bit, because his queen was there, and it just put a lot of pressure on the G pawn, which it was X-rayed by the light square bishop. So my goal here was probably to later on exchange with the knight here for the light square bishop, and when he takes back, then I would attack his pawn here. So that sort of forces him to exchange the dark square bishop for my knight, so which he did. So then bishop takes f4 and attacking his rook, and really opening the file for the queen to attack the isolated pawn here. So he retreats the bishop to b1, and he's really trying to checkmate me here. And at that point, that move was pretty obvious to me, so I went to g6, blocking the queen. So he exchanges rooks because the rook is under attack. So rook takes c8, queen takes c8. So now, so I'm not sure why. I guess I wanted to keep my light square bishop focused on this diagonal, right? So to me, it wouldn't really make sense to capture with that. And by moving the queen, now I can later on use the rook to put more pressure, and then the queen can attack somewhere on the diagonal. So he goes knight to e5. So he does have an outpost here, which is very good for him, and the knight is supported by the rook as well. And there was no way that I would exchange. And I felt that this knight was very well positioned, and I was getting a little bit nervous about that, because now he's got the queen and the bishop, and then the knight here putting more pressure on this g pawn. So I go rook to d8, attacking the pawn, putting pressure on the d pawn, which is at this point my target. So knight goes to g4. No, to g4, that's right. And I guess he's eyeing this weak dark square around my king, because normally if you have a pawn up here, you'd probably like a bishop in here, and to really support the dark square. So he recognizes that there's a weak dark square, so that's where he's trying to get his knight to, I guess, check. So now the queen goes to c6, threatening checkmate on g2, but actually the idea here was really to go here eventually to attack the pawn, the d pawn, and because he doesn't have any dark squared bishop, he cannot support it as well. So recognizing the checkmate threat, he goes f3, blocking the queen. And that's fine with me, because that was not really my intention, because I knew that was an obvious move. So I go king to g7 to prevent the knight from checking me here. And the knight attacks the queen instead. So knight goes to e5, which works out for me, because that was where I wanted my queen. So I move queen to b6, and now his pawn will fall. There's no way for him to protect it. Now he goes queen to c3. So I guess he didn't like the idea of being pinned here. And plus the queen is pinning the king here, so I think he recognizes that, and he's starting to worry about those pins. So rook takes d4, and so obviously the queen here is x-raying the king, and my opponent sees that, so he moves his king to f1, and this is where I go bishop to d2, forking the queen and the rook. So at this point I felt really good because all my pieces are active. His light square bishop is not very active. Back here it's been neutralized by the pawn. The knight doesn't really have support. It's well placed, but it's sort of alone, so I don't see how he could really attack. So the queen goes to b2, which is a good move because he's really x-raying my king here. And I do recognize that, and you'll see later on how I blundered. So bishop takes e1 and king takes e1. So at this point I'm feeling really good, and I do recognize the x-ray by the queen, and in my mind I told myself, do not move this rook because there's no reason to, because the queen is supporting it, and all I was supposed to do is go king to g8, and then he would have no real good moves, and he's very vulnerable here. But I sort of overthought about it, and I blundered. So I went rook d8. So here I even told myself not to move the rook because there is that discovered check threatening the queen here, which is exactly what happened. And then I just resigned, and I was really upset, and I thought that I should have won that game, and because it wasn't a forced tactical move or anything that forced me to lose the queen. It was simply a loss of confidence, and sometimes playing a simple move like king to g8, that's a simple move, but it gets you out of the x-ray, just like he did when he was x-rayed and he simply moved his king there. So I just thought moving the king perhaps was not as an aggressive move, so I moved the rook back to sort of open up an attack here. So that was a huge mistake, and I paid for it, and I felt really, really bad after this game, and I think that that's how you learn best, by really feeling disappointment or anger almost, and frustration, and it was just one of those rookie mistakes that I should have had more confidence in myself and just play the most natural moves. Okay, and so that's the lesson learned. Okay, thank you everyone.